Hello and welcome everybody to the Care Workers Hour, which is very exciting. This is our very first one. Hopefully you can all hear us and see us okay. We are a little bit past the hour, this first run through, because this is all very new to us. My name is Sophie Chester-Glynn. I'm Director at Co-Produce Care, and I'm delighted to bring you this hour. We may use all of it, we may not use all of it, but we are dedicating this to issues that are being shared and faced by care workers. So often we find that the care sector is talked about, and especially care workers are talked about, but nobody actually engages with care workers themselves and finds out what they're facing from their perspective, their lived experience of the job, of the work, and something that they usually absolutely love and sacrifice a lot to take part in. So I think it is high time that we dedicate some specific space in social media, in this realm of wherever you're watching us, especially YouTube. You might see it on other channels. And what we're doing is we're really focusing on care workers and who else to team up with to discuss what care workers are going through than the Care Workers Charity. They are a fantastic charity. If you don't know about them, we'll put some links and information in the description and on the screen about how to find out more about the charity. But they are dedicated to supporting care workers in all different ways, from raising funds to help with well-being, to help with mental health support, to crisis grants that care workers might need when they are really, really struggling and there's nothing or no one out there to help them. They do so much self-sacrifice to make sure that our loved ones, ourselves, are supported, looked after, safe and happy. And it's just vital that we spend this time understanding their world. So do us a favour and support this channel by liking it and subscribing and sharing. The shares are really important because if people don't know it, then they're not going to join. This is going to be quite different from just us talking to you and at you. We really want to hear your questions about care workers. So if you wanted to put something in the chat, if you're watching us live, while I'm talking, some questions, whatever comes into your mind, then do that, and we'll try and look at them and address them in some way. So I'm going to kick off with someone from the Care Workers Charity. Absolutely delighted to have Olivia Firth join us, and she's in policy and projects, and she's a policy and projects manager at the Care Workers Charity. So an absolutely perfect person to talk to us about the report that the Care Workers Charity has done, specifically on our topic today, fuel and transport, and the cost of fuel and transport. And I think it's important to focus on this from a care worker's perspective, because often you might hear care providers talk about the cost of supporting their care workforce, but what does that actually mean for people who are having to do the work? How does not being paid enough to get around while you're doing work, how does that affect them? A lot of us might have a regular wage and we factor in, maybe getting into work and coming back from work, but specifically for care workers that have to support people in different areas, go from place to place, that costs a lot in terms of their fuel, their wear and tear of their vehicle. And as we know, since all that's been going on in the Middle East, since the war in Iran, there has been a huge increase in fuel costs. And there's a real question around, are we considering the impact of that on the care workforce? Because they're harboring a lot of the cost of that, and I think that's very unfair. So it's a question around, how is that affecting people? What does it actually mean? And I'm so grateful to the Care Workers Charity for bringing this to our attention. Enough of me rambling on. I could ramble on for a long time, but I'm sure you're not here for that. So I'm going to bring in Olivia Firth into the conversation from the Care Workers Charity. Hello, Olivia.
Hello, thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. I think we're all a little bit warm as the heat starts to rise a little bit, but I've managed to keep this room in my home office cool for now. So thank you so much for joining today. I think it would be really great to just hear a little bit about yourself, your role in the Care Workers charity, and then maybe you can give us some updates about what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Olivia. I'm the Policy and Projects Manager at the Care Workers Charity. So I lead on our advocacy and campaigning efforts and also our direct engagement with care workers through our Care Worker Advisory Board and Champions Project. This is a diverse and national network of 40 care workers from across all 4 nations. And we meet with them bi-monthly to learn about the most prominent issues that they're facing, and we then try and co-produce change that is led by care workers' voices. They also have various opportunities to attend roundtables with the likes of the Department of Health and Social Care, CQC, the Health Foundation. They've also done big bodies of work with Oxford and Sheffield University too. So the aim of that project really is to get care workers a seat at the table and to get their voices actively heard, in kind of policy and practice discussions and decision making. A little bit about myself. So I have an academic past. So I have an undergraduate degree in human rights and social justice and a master's degree in human rights, both from Kingston University. But actually, probably more importantly to any conversation that I have, previously to join the charity, I was a care worker myself. So I've had experience in both residential and domiciliary settings, mainly delivering dementia and palliative care. At the Care Workers Charity, it's always very busy. We're always working hard to try and support nearly 2 million care workers across the UK. As you said, whether that's through financial grants, whether that is through mental health and wellbeing support, and also through our advocacy and campaigning efforts. At the moment, we have our 2026 Care Worker Wellbeing Survey that is open for responses. Last year, we ran that survey and managed to garner responses from over 2,000 care workers across the UK, and launched that report at Parliament with David Baines MP hosting us. And we really want to do the same again this year. We're also doing a lot of work in terms of setting up advocacy and campaigning efforts that are led by care workers' voices. So at the moment on our social media, you will see the startings of the Why You Care campaign, and that is hearing directly from care workers through videos and also blog posts about their experiences in care and why they choose and continue to choose a career in care. So that's just a little bit. We're very busy, as I said, and we're always working really, really hard to support care workers across the UK.
I think that's just absolutely incredible. The amount that the Care Workers Charity is doing for the sector is really inspirational. And you've explained really well the key things that you're hoping to do in terms of research and promotion of care workers' issues, and trying to really promote the sector as a whole, but from a care worker perspective. And it'd be good to understand how people can support the Care Workers Charity. I know you've got different ways of doing that, but did you want to just share some of the ways that if people wanted to get involved, we have along the screen on the website, the web page, and we'll pop it in the chat as well. But did you want to mention some of the ways that people could do that?
Yes, absolutely. So, as you said, there's the link at the bottom there. Um, One of the ways that you can support is by donating to the Care Workers Charity. So every donation that we get goes directly to supporting paid adult social care workers across the UK. And again, that is mainly for financial crisis grants or mental health and wellbeing support. We also have various fundraising events that go on throughout the year. At the moment, we are setting up for the Moonlight Walk that will be happening in September. And we really encourage people to join, whether that's individually or as a group. And again, those fundraising efforts, all the money that's raised from that goes directly to supporting paid adult social care workers. Some of the other things as well is simply supporting us on kind of, social media. We really want to engage as many people as possible so that they are aware and learning about, the realities that care workers face in the adult social care sector, and really amplifying the voices of care workers. And also, I guess part of that as well is, kind of signing up to our campaigns and newsletters. So we have newsletters that go out every single month that showcase exactly what we've been doing, how we've been able to support care workers, and just sharing the word and message with colleagues. And obviously, if you are a care worker that is watching this live stream as well, please do go onto the website where you can learn more about financial grants available to you, and also the mental health and wellbeing support that is available as well.
Great, thank you so much for that. And then today we are going to be focusing on one of your reports that you've done. Before I step into that, just some things that came up actually recently in the news and around home care workers and the issues they face with fuel costs as they spike. And this person is saying, I probably fill up between 75 and £100 per week, and it's a very big bill. And that's somebody that's a home care worker in South Yorkshire. So it's being felt across the board, really, and it's probably something we don't even talk about enough. And they also are saying that, it is a necessity that all home care workers are paid for their mileage and travel time amid ongoing rises in fuel costs. But of course, many providers obviously we all have to, but it's whether that is really covering everything, and then what we're doing when that isn't really supporting care workers enough. But I'd love to talk a bit more about your report, the Care Workers Charity report, and maybe you can pick out some things that really struck you in what you found in the report, because it really is quite important, and we will put a link to it in the comments and chats for this live stream as well.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. At the Care Workers Charity, we really want to understand the experiences and realities of adult social care workers. So we ran a survey asking them directly about the impact of the rising fuel costs, both on their personal lives and their working lives. Just over 100 care workers across the UK responded, and what they told us should really concern anyone who cares about the future of this sector. So 99.26% of our respondents said that they had noticed an increase in the fuel costs in the past 4 weeks. Only one individual had not. And that tells us immediately how sharp this pressure is. But this isn't a problem that's only affecting a small pocket of the workforce. Just over 80% of our respondents said that they rely on their personal vehicles every single day for work. So when fuel prices rise, it goes straight into the heart of whether care workers can actually do their jobs. And this isn't a minor inconvenience. Just over half of our respondents told us that rising fuel costs were significantly impacting their ability to deliver care. So in practice, this means care workers making decisions about which visits they can afford to make. It means journeys being cut short or routes being reconsidered because what they are able to spend on petrol that week. For domiciliary care workers, especially, who are often lone workers, this can also mean walking alone late at night or at a bus stop late at night rather than driving, which actually puts their own safety at risk. And one of our respondents, I think, summed up that element to do with safety perfectly when they said, being on the minimum wage and running out of fuel before I get paid has been a disaster. So I've had to ride my bike. I've been knocked off twice and I'm not happy. Interestingly, just over 30% of our respondents said that they do not receive any reimbursement at all for their travel or fuel costs. So this means that they are covering the full cost of getting to and from every visit or every shift out of their own pocket from wages that are already stretched very thin. Of those who are reimbursed, 67% told us that it does not cover their costs adequately. So even when support exists on paper, it isn't necessarily meeting the reality of what care workers are actually spending. But quite rightly, we then need to understand the impact that this is having on their personal lives. So 72% of our respondents said that rising fuel costs were having a significant impact on their personal finances. And we have to remember that we are talking about a workforce that is already amongst the lowest paid in the country. These costs aren't landing on comfortable margins, they are landing on people who do not have the ability to absorb them. And these financial pressures don't remain financial for long. They often become stress, anxiety, debt, and ultimately decisions about whether to stay in the sector at all. And again, I think now is a really important time to highlight the voices of care workers that we heard throughout this survey. So one individual told us that the financial pressure, that they had to cut their days as they couldn't afford to work full time due to petrol costs, and the stress of this has directly affected their health. Another individual told, it has reduced my living standards. I have to spend more on fuel and I'm not paid for the distances I drive. And finally, another individual said, I'm thinking about leaving my role as I can't afford to pay up front. My employer pays 40p per mile, which I know is reasonable, but filling up the car twice a week to do my job and waiting a month to be reimbursed is not sustainable. So these pressures are spilling out into the everyday lives of care workers, but also into the decisions about whether they can remain in the sector. So 53.68% of our respondents told us that rising fuel costs had influenced their decisions about their working lives. And this isn't a vague dissatisfaction, these are active decisions, whether that's about reducing shifts, changing their roles, or leaving the sector altogether. And every care worker that leaves the sector is not just a statistic, it's a loss of experience, it's a loss of trust built with the people that they care and support for. And it's also a cost that falls on the providers who then have to recruit and train someone new. Care workers have told us clearly and consistently that this is an issue for them. What they are asking for is higher mileage reimbursements, more stable and localised rotas, and better access to alternative transport options. And these are not unreasonable demands. Essentially, they are the minimum conditions that would allow care workers to continue doing a job they're committed to without having to subsidise it from their own pockets. And I think it's everyone's job in the sector to make sure that this message and the voices of care workers do not go unheard, because care workers are the backbone of our sector. They are also the backbone of our society, and they deserve a system that does not ask them to pay for the privilege of being so.
Thank you so much, Olivia. That was a fabulous summary of everything that's in the report. And to be honest with you, people do need to go and read it. It's short, it's very easy, it's very accessible, it's easy to understand. And that's a fantastic summary of it. And it's just so sad to think that so many care workers are actually suffering in this way, but you don't hear it hit the headlines. I'm not even sure even employers really consider how much this is affecting their workforce. And it would be a call to employers maybe to go out and check in with the workforce and see how they might need to be supported. And also maybe for local authorities to think about factoring this more into their how they support the us to pay providers to pay care workers. Maybe there needs to be a specific fund that actually attends to this, that's ring fenced, because inevitably the fuel costs are, that's something that's rising quite unexpectedly over the last sort of year. this year, 2026, that nobody necessarily understood would happen in this way so quickly. So it's being responsive to those needs, especially if we are potentially losing care workers that we need in the sector. And the reports that we get from, whether it's Skills for Care or the King's Fund or anywhere else are great, but they're historic. They're looking back, and this is happening now. So from your point of view, what do you think would really help either for providers to do or anybody who has a leadership role in the sector to look at this? Maybe there's a way for some local authorities to work with the care workers charity to maybe a round table that could really uh, cut through these issues and think about how they could support the sector a bit more to make sure it's sustainable.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there when you were talking about, kind of like providers checking in with workers in their organisations. It all starts with a conversation. We can't shy away from these issues that are affecting the workforce now. As you quite rightly said, this isn't something that could happen. This isn't something that has happened in the past. It's happening right now. And there needs to be ways for policymakers, local authorities, anyone in the sector to be able to engage and have these conversations with care workers. It's so important to hear directly from the care workforce because they are the individuals that are doing these jobs day in, day out. They understand exactly what is happening in the sector and how it's affecting them. And they are the ones that are interacting with various parts of the sector as well. So they really have the knowledge and the insight and the expertise to be able to offer solutions, not just have the conversations, but actually work together and try and come up with these solutions. Often say at the care workers charity is that you know there's nearly 2 million care workers employed across the UK. When you're missing that many perspectives from the conversations that are happening, something is going to go wrong. And we are seeing the implications of care workers not being involved now, with decisions being made that greatly impact the workforce, in quite a negative way. And I guess to sum up, that's really what our Care Worker Advisory Board and Champions Project is all about, is getting care workers that seat at the table, opening up the conversations and getting care workers rightly recognised as the stakeholders that they are in the sector.
That's a wonderful way of putting it to stakeholders that they are in the sector. Absolutely fabulous. And I don't think people understand or view care workers in that way. Talk to me a little bit around what you've been doing with the advisory group. Who makes up this advisory group? Because in a minute, we are going to turn to Sophie Tracy, who's been so kind in offering her time on her lunch break to come and talk to us about this very important subject around fuel costs. But just to sort of like tee up how you have involved and engaged care workers in your impact work, how has that advisory group come about, and what are some of the fantastic things and work that they've been doing over the last year or so?
Yeah, of course. Any opportunity to talk about the advisory board and champions project, and I'm ready to go. So yes, we actually launched the Care Worker Advisory Board and Champions project in September of 2024, when we received funding from the Rain Foundation as part of their Better Careers, Better Care programme. And it really came about, because our CEO, Carolina Gerlich, noticed that when she was going into rooms to have these discussions about adult social care, she found herself often being one of the only current or former care workers in the room. But these were conversations that were happening about the workforce. And, so we really wanted to try and change that. So what we did is over 2 years, we have recruited a diverse and national network of 40 care workers from across all 4 nations of the UK. Um, They work in a range of settings, whether that is residential care, domiciliary care, supported living, personal assistance, and they're all direct care workers, because we really wanted it to be a space where care workers could engage with one another, share learning, and come up with the solutions needed for the sector. So we meet with them bi-monthly and we discuss the issues that they're facing, and we then come up with tangible change and campaigns that are led by their voices. One of the things that we often do as well within the project is we campaign for care workers to be actively involved in discussions and decision making around the adult social care sector, whether that's policy, practice, etc. And members of our project have contributed to high stakes and high impact roundtables with the Department of Health and Social Care, looking at the Fair Pay Agreement, the care workforce, the care pathway, and delegated healthcare activities. They've had roundtables with CQC, looking at their assessment frameworks. They've done bodies of work with the Health Foundation, PPL, so many things. I could probably go on forever. And they've also done really big and important bodies of work with Oxford University on the use of ethical generative AI in adult social care, and also with Sheffield University looking at their current and future research prospects for the sector. And members of our project as well have also been involved in media opportunities. So members of our project have engaged in interviews with the BBC, the Wall Street Journal, the Telegraph. So it's been a really, really wonderful project. And it's so important because we can't afford to make decisions about the sector with care workers not in the room anymore. We really recognise care workers as professionals, and we recognise them as individuals with skills, expertise, knowledge, and insight. And we really draw upon that. So they are actively involved when we, formulate surveys. We've also produced, or I should say co-produced, Centering Care Work as a guide. So we originally published that in March of last year, and we co-produced a guide on how to co-produce with care workers. What does co-production mean to them? What does it look like? And this year we actually went back to them and said, has anything changed? Is there anything that's happened in the past year that we didn't consider last year, that we now need to include? So we worked with them again to update that, and that is now live, and it's for anyone in the sector who wants to engage and co-produce with care workers. But I think it really boils down to this fundamental belief that care workers are skilled professionals who their roles entail, a lot of skill, a lot of intelligence, a lot of responsibility, and also a lot of risk as well. And they have every single right to be in every single room where discussions happen and decisions are made about the sector, because they are not peripheral to the workings of the sector, and they're not peripheral to the workings of our society. And they contribute so much, and they deserve to have people that support them and stand in their corner as we fight for a fairer future for adult social care workers.
Amen to that. Hallelujah. Wow. That is just such an indictment. I couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, I've never heard anyone say it so fantastically as that. And in that, on those terms, with that ethos, that's a nod to try and actually bring in. I know you've got care worker background. I've worked in care for years, done the personal care, the medication, all the things, and then obviously I'm managing and doing other things now. But let's bring in a wonderful care worker, Sophie, who's been there. I'm going to bring her in with us, and then I'll take you out in a minute if that's okay. So there we are. Hi, Sophie. Hello. How are you?
Me.
Oh, thanks so much for coming on. It is so warm, and you're on your lunch break. So if you need to take a break for any second at all,
Perfect.
then just let us know. How long have we got you for? Because I know that you've taken your lunch break time to do
I think I'm
this.
up for another half hour, so I'm all good.
Lovely. Okay, well, thank you so much to Olivia for bringing you into the chat, and joining us up so we can talk about fuel costs and just generally care work. You know, we love it, but also there's tricky bits in it. So, I'm actually going to let Olivia. I'm going to let you go for now. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to talk a little bit more with Sophie now. So, see you later,
Thank
Olivia.
you. See you later.
See ya.
Cut off on a prime. So, Sophie, thank you so much for joining us. I really want to hear a little bit about
Oh,
you.
oh no, I've
What?
lost you, so Sophia.
Okay, no worries. Let me know when you get me back. Can you hear me now?
Oh no, I can't hear you now.
Okay. Let me just try and.
One moment.
It's okay. There's wind and there's all sorts. We're gonna take her out for a second. And while I do that, I'm gonna maybe bring Olivia back in. Olivia, if you're still around. But yeah, thank you. Great. Always a little bit of teething problems.
Yeah.
And amazing for Sophie to actually take a time out of her lunch break to come join us. So, and also it's a testament to the fact that care workers are doing so much all the time and they are on shift and then still trying to advocate, and everything else. But maybe to save if you know much about Sophie and her journey, save her some of the introduction. Do you know very much about how she came to join you at the Care Workers Charity doing this advisory group on the board?
Yes, yes. So, Sophie is a domiciliary care worker, as I'm sure you can tell she's on her break in the field. And I believe that she's been in care now for about 4 years, I want to say. She actually came into care work, and has worked across kind of various different settings, but her main role has always, I think, has been, sorry, I believe in domiciliary care.
Mhm.
Um, I also believe that she has taken on other jobs alongside being a care worker, which I think is also testament to the fact that often care workers, or in fact, we know that care workers are not fairly remunerated
Mm,
for their role. And the way that Sophie came to be involved in us is when we've attended panels or events before, we've always kind of called on our network of care workers to join us to make sure that care workers are meaningfully represented and they are the ones that are speaking for themselves. So Sophie kind of interacted with us before, and that's kind of how we came to her. And when we
great.
put the call out, the applications open, that's when she came to us, and that's how she became part of the Advisory Board Champions project. But I reckon
Lovely.
Sophie could do a much better job of introducing herself than I could.
Great. Well, I'm going to join you in again, Sophie. We'll see how we go. There we
Oh,
are. Great
there you
to
go. I
see you
can hear
back.
you both now. I don't know what happened. I just couldn't
Wonderful.
hear.
Don't worry. Do you know what? There's gremlins in the system all the time. So we can hear you now. So I'm going to I hopefully you heard some of Olivia has given you a little bit of an intro, that you're a home care worker, you're out and about. This is your little break. Um,
Yep.
but what is it? Let's start on a positive. What is it that you really enjoy about your work in care work?
I just love like treating everyone as a grandparent, and especially when they don't get the care themselves. Sometimes you're the only people they see each day, and you know yourself. If you've got a day off and the day drags, you think, how must it be like for someone who's on their own the whole day, and
Mm.
all you see is people who are being paid to come to see you. And some people I've seen, especially when you're shadowing a call, they adapt so quickly to the client.
We're losing you a
You
little
just
bit, Sophie. You're a little bit in and out. I think it's the reception. So what I might suggest, if you maybe find another spot, and then we'll come back to you in a second. It's a little bit Dalek-y. What do you think?
try again.
Yes, I'll take you out a sec, and then I'll bring you back in. There we are. That's fine. Good. Um, so that's what she just said was so lovely. That just goes to the heart of what I feel a lot of care workers do. They don't see people who need support. They don't see people that they look after, that they work with. They don't see them as just tasks. They see them as actual people that they relate to. They see them as like, how would my mum or my grandpa, or they're there alone. They really are. It's so emotive. They really do feel that they want to give something to somebody else as if they were family members. And I think that empathy you don't necessarily see in many jobs, because people, I don't know, are sending emails and just staring at a screen all day. But they're actually connecting and supporting people at an energetic level, I want to say. People who maybe haven't seen anyone for a while and they're feeling a bit low or lonely. They're Even though she might be out on a call to provide medication support or to make sure that somebody gets out of bed, it's so much more than that. It's a conversation. It's check-in. It's, is there anything going on in the house? Maybe they'll pick up safeguarding or undue influence from family members. There's just so much that care work does, and care workers do it because they recognize how invaluable they are. Do you find that sort of with a lot of the care workers that you speak to?
Every single day. There's not a day in my working life that goes by where I'm not interacting with care workers.
Mm,
And one of the things that we always see and that we always say is that, and it's a bit of a convoluted sentence now that I come to think of it, but care workers care because they care. They are individuals who are delivering care and support to people who often become like family. They know the individuals that they're caring for and supporting for like the backs of their hands. And it's something that we're seeing. There's such a societal misunderstanding of care workers and what care work entails. Often people will talk about simply, making cups of teas or, you know, doing kind of like various things. And yes, of course, that is part of it, but there's so much more to it than that. Care workers wear multiple hats and have their hands in multiple pies, and they do it because they want to make a difference. And it's something that we see every single day, and it's something that we try and showcase as well through our work. So yeah, it's just they're incredibly important people, and they're so incredibly important to not only the
great.
people drawing on care and support, but wider society as well.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, right. I'm going to try Sophie one last time. Well, not one last time. Again, third time's a charm. So here we go. There we are. We'll try you
Hi.
again, Sophie. Honestly, do not
Third time
worry.
lucky.
We have the pleasure we have the pleasure of having you on here. So don't worry at all about the glitches. Yes. So we were just kind of reflecting on what you were saying about your work and how much passion you were talking about it. But we also want to talk about the fuel crisis and the cost of all of that. I know you have some views on that. How is that
Yeah.
affecting you at the moment?
Well, especially last year, even before the fuel rise, last year was a real struggle. I've explained to Olivia, I started riding my bike to stop having to pay for all the fuel. Which is it was nice getting fresh air, but then again, it's hard when it's going dark and you're still cycling on your own. Sometimes down country roads, it can be a bit scary.
That's so true. And to be honest with you, I'm really scared of cycling per se. It terrifies me. So it's amazing that you're actually doing it. And do you feel that is it sustainable? Do you feel like you could carry on like this? Or how long do you think? Oh, really? Yeah.
I think it's hard because when the weather's nice, you can cycle okay, but then when it's raining or it's cold and you're cycling, then your clothes get wet, your uniform smells, and then you wash them more. So really, cycling you can only do it when the weather's nice. Otherwise, it is just more hassle. But then it's hard because how expensive petrol is. You're thinking, do I either have wet, smelly clothes or do I save money on petrol? Because some months I can be doing about 1,000 miles just because of how far some of the calls are away from each other. Like sometimes I've done nearly 500 miles a week just because you're back and forth, and it's just so expensive.
That is so expensive. And has that
Yeah.
affected the amount of work you've been able to take on? Because obviously cycling rather than driving can, it depends where you are. If you're in a built up area, I suppose going on a bike can be a bit faster, but presumably you can't take, you have to factor that in like the travel time, it
Yeah.
takes longer. So presumably you're not able to earn as much as you would have.
No. So on the evenings, we normally have 2 or 3 routes. Sometimes I have to turn down the bigger routes because there's no way you can cycle there. And even if I wasn't cycling and I was driving, I don't want to do that route because there's so much more miles involved. And even though you get more calls on that side, it's just you're not earning enough money to justify doing the bigger run.
So it's really affecting how you're doing care and what you're doing. And how does it make you feel, the increase in costs and the effect it has on you?
I think it's hard because basically you're paying to do your job. I think then I don't know if there'd be a way of getting like a fuel card or something where it is just for your fuel for work, and that way you're not paying to go to work. Because we get our mileage paid after the first call, and we don't get paid for our last mileage. So we're paying to go home and go to work. And that seems normal, but if your call is half an hour away from home, it is a big difference.
That's a really good point because actually you don't know where, it's not like you're going to a fixed location every day. Like people who work in an
No.
office, they're like, oh, well, I don't get paid to go into the office, but you're not going into office. You actually don't know where you're going to be going and how long it's going to take you. And like you say, it could be quite a far way away. And I think people don't take into account with the wages that people are on and the increase in costs. It just is really tough to actually make ends meet. So that's a really interesting perspective, and I think it's important for people to hear that actually. Um, what about the care work that you do? How long have you been doing care work for?
Over 4 years now, and then I've been doing care for my granddad when he was on end of life. So I've had all range of care from end of life care to domiciliary to personal assistant. So I've had quite a range of experiences, and just every day is different.
Yes, we lost a little bit of you there, but just reflecting on the fact that you've actually did it for a family member, and I think that's sometimes exactly how people get into care. They've actually done it for somebody else, and they're like, actually, that gives me such satisfaction to know I can help people, but also I can help others. And that's just, we were talking about empathy before, and how a lot of what you do because you genuinely care. It's not just a job that you go to and you're just waiting for the paycheck. You actually care about the minutes, the hours that you spend on the job. So just a huge thank you really for what you do.
I think after seeing like how bad my granddad was treated, and you just don't want another family to have to like deal with how we got treated, and you just want to make a difference when you can.
Right. So you literally experienced poor care being provided to your granddad. So you just thought,
Yeah.
actually, that's not something I want somebody else to experience and I can make a change. That's just incredible. And really, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that personal story as well. I just think it's really helpful to hear from care workers about how they came into the job. It really is so emotive. I'm going to let you go because I know that you're using your work lunch time to do this, and I really appreciate that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we let you leave?
Care worker charity has made such a difference. Like even just the experiences like I'm having just from the help that you've given me, it's made such a difference. That the charity is so good, and I need more recognition and more support.
Okay, thank you so much. We didn't quite get all of that because the sound quality was a bit all over the place, but we got the majority of what you said earlier. So I'm going to let you go and thank you so much, especially in the heat. I'm glad you were able to find some shade under a tree. Okay, thank you so much, Sophie. You take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye bye. Oh, that was fantastic for her to come on. And I know the reception was a little bit all over the place, but hopefully everybody was able to hear the majority of what she said. And actually, the impact, the main message from it, I think, was the impact that it has. And it's really sad and poignant to think that somebody who's such a absolute gift to the sector, someone who is doing the job because they've had a personal experience, and from that personal experience they want to do better for other people. That's the kind of values that you want. When you talk about values based recruitment, that is absolutely the value you want, of empathy, of caring, understanding, and wanting to improve quality of care. And to think you could lose all of that potentially, or not get the most of it at least, because of the fuel cost, and also the huge impact it has on somebody's working life. So the change that she's had to make is, I would say, quite dramatic, from being
Mm,
able to drive everywhere to having to cycle, because it's not like she's just, some people might say, oh, I've made a change to cycle to work, but it's not just going to and from work, it's cycling throughout the day in these heat waves.
yeah.
There's no aircon, there's no open your windows while you drive along. It's a lot, and it really, it's incredible what she's doing, but it does hit home that the effect this has for care workers. Yeah. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to add from on that perspective, or from the care workers charity? Because I think we've had a really good deep dive into this subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one of the things, like I said, I'm in constant, or we are at the charity in constant communication with care workers, and I know that's something that Sophie has spoken to me about before, kind of in terms of transport and whatnot, is also understanding the impact of stop-start travel on the car,
Right.
the natural wear and tear, that driving, she said some days she's driving 500 miles a week, 1,000 miles a month. you know we also need to make sure that care workers are, or especially domiciliary care workers, are able to, or in a position to be able to maintain their car as well, because that's going to wear and tear the car. And she's spoken quite openly and honestly, about the impact of doing so many miles on her car, and obviously having to go for checks, etc. Um, I think the thing that I hope people have got from interacting with Sophie is that, um, she's a really excellent care worker, and she cares so much about her role. She cares so much about the people that she is supporting. Um, and that's the same for a lot of, or for care workers across the sector. The sector and our society has run on goodwill for a long time, expecting care workers to pick up extra responsibilities, or expecting care workers to absorb costs. And we just can't run on that goodwill anymore, because care workers are human beings too. They aren't robots, they aren't cogs in a machine. They have their own wants, their own needs, for life, and they have every right to be able to have, and their own wants and their own needs, and we need to make sure that care workers are cared for themselves.
Absolutely. And that is fantastic. Point to bring in the fact that even though the care workers charity is there to support care workers when they don't get that support, essentially, I think a lot of what you do in terms of policy and an impact is to encourage people who are decision makers, whether it's in politics or in leadership in care, to think about how they're supporting care workers in all of the decisions, all of the policy, all of the changes in legislation that are made, and how that's filtering down to positive impact for care workers who are actually doing the work. So that's a brilliant point, I think, to end on. So thank you so much, Olivia. I'm going to let you go while I close out, but
Thank
that
you.
was wonderful discussion. I really appreciate that. So thank you so much. Take
Thank
care.
you for having me. Take care.
So that was the end of our Care Workers Hour. We haven't quite used all the hour, but I think we got some really good feedback from at Care Work who's doing the work and who has reflections on the fuel costs. And we are going to be back here again next month. So if you're watching us on YouTube, the best thing that you can do is to like and subscribe, but also to share. And I think there's a bell on the YouTube channel, so you can just click on that once you've subscribed and find out exactly when we're going to be going live, because it's not the same time every month, but we'll try. I don't think it is the same time. Well, actually might be. I'm not quite sure exactly when we're going live, but I know that we're going live regularly. And the best thing you could do is just subscribe. But also at Cambridge's Care, we send out emails to everybody who subscribes to our mailing list, and you'll get an email of when to join. So there's lots going on, but really I just want to thank you for joining today and listening, and please do come back again, listen to our next subject and our next care worker speaking, and above all, do support the Care Workers charity. Make sure that you engage with them, that you support them, donate to them. We've got all the links in the description of our video today, and we look forward to speaking to you, and speaking to you hopefully if you put some more comments next time as well. That'd be fabulous, because we can have a bit more interaction, and making this an interactive live stream. So thank you very much, everyone. Do take care.